What's up? What's up? Gary, maybe you can look up and give me a discerning look. He's supposed to be.
He's just breathing out. Oh!
Go ahead. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. We are here at the Calling All Heroes Comics podcast. I am George, and I'm joined by Gary.
Ho.
Tim.
Hey.
And Walls.
Hey.
And not so conspicuous by his absence, Austin, who may be en route.
Maybe.
Sure yet.
We hope to. We can only hope.
Yes. But we're back.
Dilly, he's en route to some punishment.
Oh. Wow.
The
Show
dilly
up on
dilly
time.
with the finger wave. I'm not
Show
sure
up
about
on
that.
time, young man.
I thought Kramer was the enforcer. Walls. Ruling with an iron fist.
Feel a little rough today.
Stepping up. See what
Stepping
I did
up.
there? Iron fist.
Iron fist.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about Motorhead. Iron fist.
So we've been off. We were off last week. We're back this week, and
We'll be off this week.
yeah.
We'll definitely be off this week.
We were off last week. We'll be way off this
Yeah.
week. But we had gotten a message on Twitter suggesting. I feel odd even saying this, but suggesting that we come up with like a little package deal set of all of the video and audio podcasts that we've done, and basically just make it available. So if anybody's interested in that, besides that one person and the four of us,
No. I never said. I never said I was interested in that.
So
Yeah, you
Counting-
didn't clear that with us yet.
counting that person,
Yeah, counting that
there's 4 people interested. There's 1 veto, but if anybody else is interested in that, let us know, because it to be honest with you, would not be that hard and wouldn't be at all expensive. I would say we could probably, I would say the first 25 people that want one, we just crank one out for you. That's no big deal.
The
So-
best of the worst of us.
and it's all way off.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all way off.
Way
so.
off.
So, but yeah, we were like I said, off for 2 weeks. And one thing I wanted to just mention real quick, if any of you all are on the Facebook page, it's facebook.com/CallingAllHeroesComics, and we've had the 25 Days of Christmas themed comic book covers. And Walls, you had a little bit of a story regarding one that got posted here.
Yeah, it was really cool. George posted a picture of Creepy 59, which is a classic Manuel Saint-Julien cover of this spooky Santa Claus with a big old axe, dripping blood coming down the chimney. Well, actually, I think he's actually leaving, because the victim, you can look through the window and see the victim lying on the floor, and then you can see the Santa Claus, coming out. And I hadn't looked at that book in a long time. I have the entire run of Creepy. I love Warren Publishing magazines. I love all of them. I always thought they were great. They introduced some great artists to the world. And here comes a great artist right now.
Yeah.
Austin Gillens.
Yeah. Should have locked that door.
It's okay. Don't blame Austin for ruining the story.
Yeah,
and possibly
we're
the
already
evening.
rolling, but come on in and join us.
Come on,
Jump on that
Deadpool.
side and we'll slide
Come on,
back.
Deadpool, take a seat.
Shift.
This is what I'm talking about.
All right,
Production.
Austin, want to slide in just a little bit more?
Production value.
There we are.
There we go.
All right.
Quality.
Hey,
There's Austin.
and
This is good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
At the very least, we have 2 tables this time. I know about 2 weeks ago, Tim and I were close enough that I think we were engaged from minute 30 to 35
Yeah,
of the podcast.
yeah.
We had a
He touched my
romantic
leg. He touched my leg.
arrangement. Okay, kill him. Good stuff. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Oh, well, anyway, it just inspired me to, well, let me backtrack a little bit. The Warren Publishing magazines, Creepy, Eerie, Vampirilla, also Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was pretty near and dear to me too. As growing up, it was one of the only really cool magazines out there that talked about old horror films, things like that. I just love that. I love that format, the magazine format. Not a lot of people collected it. I mean, I was sort of like a loner back in the day. Not too many people that I knew collected the Warren magazine stuff, but you could get it at the bookstore. Anyway, long story short, you had that picture of Creepy 59 on Facebook. I was like, that's pretty cool. And I went back and opened my collection. I was looking at it, and I said, mine's in fair to middling collection or condition. I want to, I just want to look at them. I got on eBay and was looking through, and lo and behold, I saw this. I'd never seen it before. There was a library edition which collected issues 50 through 59, and it's hardbound, and really neat. You know, it has like the creepy logo on the spine of it. It's a hardbound edition, and this guy wanted some crazy price for it, and you know, I just sort of I messaged him. He said, you know, make an offer, and I lowballed it, and he accepted it. So it's really neat. It's going to be
That's
like
awesome.
it's almost having a library book of 10 issues of Creepy, and it's really neat. And basically they are I don't think there's any alteration, just that they took the 10 issues and they're bound. And I've seen that before with other comics. I've actually seen other comic-related stuff that's bound like that as well. And when spines, I'm assuming at some point some of the larger libraries in the country, actually you could go to a special collections area, I guess, and see things like that.
There's a customer that used to come in all the time by the name of Lee Beeman. I don't know if any of you guys know Lee, but he would send his books. I don't remember where he said he sent them, but he'll actually send out these books, and they will professionally bound them and put like one of the covers on the book for him and everything. And it's a lot of times I think it's stuff that might not have an inherent value, you know, itself, but it's just a cool way to have them by the volume. Yeah,
and it's like it's a regular. I mean, it's like a hardbound book.
Yeah,
you know, and it's really neat looking. So we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty excited about it because I'd never seen one before. I mean, I've searched that stuff and I've collected that stuff for years and years, and I'd never seen like a library bound edition of that.
Right.
And I know Hellboy, what I think is really interesting. They do the library editions of those books, right? Like the large editions, the hardbound. I just think I guess it's really neat as far as collecting. I mean, you could actually put them on a shelf or something and pull them down, and they're protected by a hardbound cover. So you could. I think you would feel more be more readily for you to just pull it off the shelf and look at it. You know,
instead of digging through your
right
boxes and
opening bags, getting tape on the cover,
unlocking the vault.
Yeah,
you know, changing the guard.
Yeah.
But that brings us to a question I have for you guys. What would be like a really good deal? Either something you maybe sold on eBay or sold at a con or bought. Like something where you just got a heck of a deal, like something really, really cool. And I want to exclude anything that, because I think all of us have been collecting for quite a while. I don't want to say something that, oh, I bought it for $5 when it was worth $5 and now it's worth $500. It's in that moment you got a deal. What, you guys have any stories on that? While you're thinking about it, I'll throw out mine. But
I have mine is I have a very dear friend. His name's Dan Webb. He used to own a store called Brainstorm Comics in Frederick, and he had this shelf where he put just like miscellaneous stuff that he got in the store. And I looked up there one day and had Famous Monsters. Lo and behold, we're talking about Warren Publishing, or I was. Famous Monsters of Filmland #6. And it had a King Kong cover on it, and he had it there. And at the time, I mean, the early issues of Famous Monsters were highly collectible. The first like 20 issues sold out. You used to be able to order back issues in the back of each magazine, but they never offered those. They were always sold out. And I thought to myself, I knew that it was worth something. And it was funny. He said, you keep picking that up. He goes, do me a favor, just give me $5. And I gave him $5.
Wow.
I gave him $5. I mean, he just said, just give me $5. I want to get that off the shelf. I'm like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. So I gave him $5 and I took it and I kept it in my collection for a long period of time. There was no such thing as eBay. eBay comes up, you know, and I'm like, well, I'd like to sort of experiment with this. So I signed in, you know, and got myself set up. Was looking at things, I guess, primarily to look for stuff and collecting. And I decided to want to try to sell something. I never really thought about that book much. And I'm like, you know what? Try this old Famous Monsters. You know, it's set in a box for a long period of time. I put it on there, and I just started at $9.99 and left it on there. And I think it sold to a guy that did makeup and costume effects in Hollywood. He bought it for like $180.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it just really shocked me that it even went up to that. I knew it was worth something at the time, but I didn't know it was, you know, well, some years had passed to it, and it was worth that much. And it's really funny. At the time, the post office put out the classic monster stamps. He sent me the envelope. He sent me to pay the payment, because back then PayPal didn't exist.
Right.
He sent me a check from the business, and it had like this really cool Planet of the Apes logo on the envelope. It was really neat, and he had the Phantom of the Opera stamp.
Oh, that's
He
cool.
used it sent to me, and I still have that envelope because it was the first thing that I ever sold on eBay, and I was really shocked because I actually paid Dan. I know you're not watching this, but if you were, you'd be like, yep. And he doesn't really care. He'd probably like, good for you, buddy, because I begged you to buy it.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, he's like, I begged you to buy the dang thing.
That's
you know?
cool.
So that's a true story.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Me, I was at Pittsburgh Comic Con about 4 years ago, and you know how sometimes those guys will only have those little 8-foot booths where they're trying to move their back issues, and sometimes it almost looks like a flea market of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm just dumping whatever I got. Well, it was all comics, and then there was a Castle Grayskull there from He-Man that had no earthly business being there. And I asked the kid, I said, how much is that? And he said, you can take a look at it. I think $20. And I didn't even open it because it looked so nice on the outside. I was like, that's a deal. And I gave the guy $20 and ushered it off to the car. And when I got out there, I opened it because usually on the Castle Grayskull, what would happen is little clamps that allowed it to open and close. Mm-hmm. Usually one of those were broken, and none of them, you know, neither set were. So I was like, oh, this is great. I open it, and it has everything. It had all the weapons. It had like the board that holds the weapons. It had the cardboard cutouts, the ladder. I mean, I'm going down the nerd hole here, but that's kind of why we're here. That little ladder to buy like on its own is like $15 or $16
because people lost them all.
Yeah, and the little rack that you put all your weapons on is $20, and each weapon is somewhere between $8 and $15. I mean, it was all in there. Those cardboard pieces, I looked, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months ago, they were selling a set of all the cardboard pieces for like $75,
wow.
And they weren't as nice as the ones. Like this had to be something that the guy just owned.
Yeah.
Funny thing was, I took it out there. I was up there with a couple friends of mine, one of which lived in Monroeville. We had taken the stuff over. We came back to the con. I don't know. I guess it was later that afternoon, and we saw that kid, and he came up and said, "Do you still have that with you? Do you still have that? My dad is super pissed. He can't believe I sold that for $20."
Oh, geez.
Like, I'm sorry, man. It's not here anymore. We already took it to my buddy's house. I go, I have to go explain this. And I mean, I had a moment where I was kind of like, you know, I'm gonna do, but at the same time, I was like, nah, that, you know.
Done deal.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. And
Shake the hand.
Yeah.
the
hand has been
if nothing
shook.
else, don't leave your kid here to run the booth.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a child; he was a grown man, you know. So, but yeah, I thought that was probably
He
my
was a
best.
grown
deal.
man fitting to get a whooping.
Yeah, right? Walls, laying it down.
Oh, what about you, Gary? You got one?
Castle
No.
Grayskull.
Really?
No, nothing that I can think of.
The one thing I have that, I mean, when you're talking about like toys and stuff like that, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, go down the dark path of mom selling all my stuff at the yard sale. Thanks, mom. But anyway,
We've all
The
lived
funny
that.
part is your mom's probably gonna watch this.
yeah, she is gonna watch
We
it.
all live
Mine
that.
will too. Me and
Yeah.
Tim had a full conversation about that one.
We all lived
Yeah.
that moment.
So all my Mego stuff, the only original Mego action figure that I have is the Hulk. That's the only one I have that I had when I was I saved it. All of them are gone. You know, the Joker Mobile, you know, the Volkswagen bus, I had that. Had all kinds of cool stuff. But anyway, Cody got me a Mego Captain America one time for Christmas. Had the boots and the shield. Got it off of eBay.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my most prized things I have.
Sure.
And it's just a little piece of my childhood.
Sure.
I'm not going to go out and put down, you know, $50-$60. I don't know how much you paid for it, but it's in nice shape.
Yeah.
I mean, the shield's in good shape. The boots are the right boots and everything. The Captain America action figure is just a nice, you know, a nice throwback to my childhood, and it's like I didn't pay anything for it. Cody bought it with his own money. Got it for me for Christmas.
That's
Now,
awesome.
like in the
That's
past 10 years, you know,
Yeah.
it's from the Hyman days.
Mm-hmm.
So since we've been up home, so
That's awesome.
just a cool thing.
That's nice.
Yeah, he got it off of eBay. So
Cool.
yeah, anyway,
Austin, you got one?
no, he does have a new dog though.
Lovely, lovely little animal. I don't know. I don't think anything not purchased. I've had a few things that were given me for free that were pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the Watchmen movie came out, there was obviously there's a pop towards all those things after a film comes out.
Sure.
Everybody wants to be involved.
Sure.
So one of the guys on my baseball team in high school was just the biggest fan of the movie, and my assistant coach and I would just clown on him all the time because he didn't know anything about the actual book, or anything about comics at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started discussing the Dark Knight and influences for how Heath Ledger played his Joker and all that, and everybody wanted to cite Mark Hamill's depiction of the Joker from Batman cartoons, and then some of the comics in the '90s. And I was like, no, dude, the Killing Joke. And my coach's face just lit up, and he's like, you know what the Killing Joke is? Yeah, I know what the Killing Joke is. And so the next morning when I came to school, he was just like, here, this is yours. and I'd never owned it.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Just free, and I'm sure he was kicking himself after like 2015 when that popped, because man, it's worth something now.
Yeah,
And I'm never getting rid of it.
Yeah, I think I have like a third or fourth print. I don't even have
Was
a
there
first
like
print
6
of
or
it.
7 prints of that,
Yeah,
something like that?
I think it's like first or second.
Are we talking about the Killing
Killing
Joke?
Joke.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Killing Joke is on the 17th print.
Wow.
Yeah, if you go up to BAM Books A Million right now, you can pick up the 17th print. And that was true as of 6 or 7 months ago, so it might even be past that. I had a first print in what I would consider a 9.2, and I sold it here for I think $150. That was
There you go.
that was before the cartoon version even got released.
Yeah.
It was just on the wall, and it was the first print. I'm still kind of reeling from the fact that you were in high school when Watchmen came out, though. So there's that.
I deal with that every day. Every day I work with it.
Every day.
Yeah. The categories.
Yeah. Hey, I've just decided to embrace the fact that we have a
gives
couple
it a thumbs up.
we have a couple of cats that stay here at Calling All Heroes Comics, and occasionally, regardless of how little I want them involved, they are. So it adds a little bit of charm, if not a little bit of unprofessionalism.
That's good. We like it. That's what we're all about.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the last 2 weeks, what have you guys read? Anything good? Anything fun?
I really enjoyed the Kelly Jones Justice League annual.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't get to read one. I sold out before.
The main man and Black Canary of all things.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great.
And dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins. You can't forget the Dolphins.
Kelly Jones posted some of that on Facebook. His like original art, the dolphin page in black and white. That was just incredible.
Yeah.
It's pages like that where you're looking at it, and also Kyle Hotes does a lot of that.
Yep.
So-
He posted a really
Speaking of Kyle Hotes, hey, yeah.
Kelly
Go ahead.
posted a really cool picture of Ebenezer Scrooge wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. That was
Yeah, I saw that.
responded
I
back
did
to it.
see that,
It's
yeah.
it was really neat. I guess it's
Yeah.
the scene where the guys come in looking for a donation to help the poor, and he said, "What can we put you down for?" Nothing.
Get nothing. And like it.
Yeah.
and
It's
some
a
of
really
that
neat
stuff,
illustration.
some of that stuff is so much more striking when you see it that way, and it brings me to a question. And I wanted to ask you first. Do you think that there's some comic art that loses something when you have the color?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, we were looking at Youngblood or something the other day, some early Liefeld stuff, some image. And I've seen, what's the guy's name, Bad Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen like a big double page spread. It was beautiful. I mean, it really popped in person. And of course, you were talking about the Killing Joke, to see like Brian Boland's original artwork or just any of that kind of stuff, the black and white, this size was so much cooler.
Yeah, I have an Alex Nino page from House of Secrets number 103, and to see just the pen and ink versus the colored comic of it, because I have of course I have the comic too.
Mhm.
The comic, looking at the page just in its pen and ink is gorgeous. It doesn't need to be colored, and it loses something. The page is so much nicer looking than looking at the page from the comic book.
Right.
It just is. It's just really cool.
Right.
Did you see it? Not to keep going back to all the people we're talking about, but did you see the Rogues Gallery?
Yeah. Yeah. And he said that he wasn't sure if the second round was going to sell,
Yeah,
and then it
boom,
sold.
gone. Yeah, and then just like real quick, like hurried sketches he does, and it's just like
I don't know if you guys saw
I don't
that.
think the guy even sleeps ever.
Kyle Hotes did a Rogues Gallery card set where it's like original art on these little trading cards.
He's done 2 of them now.
Yeah, and it's just like a Rogues Gallery, and each figure and then sells the set.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, original.
He's superb.
I'm a big fan too. A lot of times I like just the pencils because I maybe it's like from an artist perspective, but it's that idea of you can see the effort more than when they're solid blacks and whites, and like on the printed
Yeah,
page.
prelim sketches. Some of those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gary's brother Dean picked up one of Bernie Wrightson's. I guess one of
Really?
the last times Bernie was there, he got a prelim of something. And it's really neat. It was really neat looking.
That is pretty sweet.
Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know it had to happen.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
Do we have any more questions? Nobody else?
We
popped
didn't have any
more
questions this
to
week. No, I
They're
noticed
mad at us.
that tends to dry up if we miss a week. I think is what ends up happening. Is we
They don't think we're coming back.
Yeah, we
it? That's
don't.
also what she said.
Wake
Kramer
up!
was not entertained by that one.
I'm not going there.
Gary's like, why am I here?
That's not question.
He's like, thank God my contract expires at the end of the year.
I got out of bed for this. You gotta be kidding me.
I've been wondering why I've been here for almost 48 years. I still haven't figured it out yet.
Oh, my gosh.
I
classic.
can't. You asked a question of anything new, in comics
Oh, yeah.
this week, or
Yeah, what'd you read now?
I'm trying to think. Well,
That-
I read the Venom Inc. thing.
Yeah,
You were
that's what I
saying there
was
was a
gonna
big buzz on the Venom Inc., and I've read that, and then of course it is now carried over into Amazing Spider-Man. I was looking at that, and you said there was like some new characters.
Yeah, that
the only
was
thing
buzz.
the only thing I can figure out is that now, Flash is now the anti-Venom. Flash Thompson became the anti-Venom now.
Well,
So I don't know if that's, I think that might be the thing, because initially, of course, when Eddie Brock was trying to, get clean and get away from everything, he became the anti-Venom. But now the anti-Venom is Flash.
So Flash isn't Agent Venom anymore?
No.
Oh man, yeah.
No, Eddie Brock went back to being Venom again.
I'll tell you something just to throw out there.
Yeah, he's,
The,
Eddie's Venom again. He has been since.
The biggest news of the week,
150.
I think, is the fact that
Well, yeah,
Fox and Disney got together, and I don't know if you guys saw, but yesterday they said flat out, because there's obviously some rumor and innuendo about that, but they flat out released and said, nope, Disney's already said that the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are rolling into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That was my thing that I was going to say.
Oh.
You asked-
Oh, well, they
so
released,
we
yeah.
missed last week, and I go into work on Monday. I'm like, Tim, did you see it? And he's like, what? And I was like, oh! It's like essentially like,
Very passionate.
oh, I'm losing my mind.
We actually toned it down a little bit for the podcast.
Losing my mind. So I guess the Federal Trade Commission was checking to see whether or not Disney was essentially becoming a monopoly.
Uh-huh.
And they needed to rule on whether or not this purchase was like viable and legal within the realms of
Right.
the media world. Because Disney did essentially go to Fox and they're like, hey, you guys suck at making Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah.
Let us bring them home. And if we have to do a deal with you guys like we did with Sony, where you guys still have a level of creative control,
Right.
where you still retain a percentage of the property,
Yeah, like
make-
distribution rights and, yeah.
then that's what we'll do, but we are bringing them home. And Fox was essentially like, I don't know about that. And Disney was like $80 billion. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we can do that. Which is really, really cool because with the way that reshoots happen and with as much CGI and everything is used, Infinity War is still a good little ways out.
Oh, for
And
sure.
Post-production, there's a lot of things you can do to kind of bring some of those guys in. And I've had a theory about how they would do that if they did for the longest time, which is in introducing Doctor Strange in his Origins film, a lot of the ideas and concepts they played with is the idea of alternate dimensions and different realities and showing his ability to so easily travel and traverse through them. And I just always thought, I was like, how cool would it be if at the end of Infinity War, after Thanos has kicked the living crap out of them, and they're licking their wounds and trying to recoup and understand how they're going to go about fighting him, Doctor Strange is just like, hold on, I know these guys, and opens up a portal and walks off.
Yeah.
And then Deadpool and Wolverine come back with him, leading a whole host of other people. Like that, just that concept, I think it's going to be really fantastic. Also for the comics,
Meowingly awesome.
meowingly awesome. Right, meow.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's cool. I think that's a really cool idea. I think that obviously with Deadpool or Wolverine, that's going to work a lot better than FF, in the sense that, like when they got a hold of Spider-Man, it was a completely new version of Spider-Man. I would be much more in favor of them not carrying over anything having to do with Fantastic Four at Fox, like just a brand new version. And I've mentioned it before, so I don't want to get too long-winded about it, but I think the best thing in the world with the Fantastic Four would be to have it be more of a period piece. And, kind of the way you see Tony Stark's father, and back in the day type of thing. Have that comic start in like 1962 and have them be those young, fresh-faced kids, but make it a period piece and bring them up then. And then it's something where the team could have gone off to an older dimension, or like you said, but
To the negative zone or wherever.
yeah, wherever, and then them come back, but them be that much older.
Well, and then that also could be something really cool. And I talked to Tim because my brain just works a mile a minute when I get really excited. And I was like, how cool would it be if Thanos was collecting the Infinity Stones? Disney, don't you steal this from me. Or if you do, give me a free screening.
Credit. Credit.
Just a free screening. I don't even need it. I don't need a name in the credits.
A free
Fly me
screening.
out to Hollywood and let me see it.
Dude, and that faceless, soulless conglomerate's going to say no dice.
The bar has been set.
You don't get a damn thing.
Yeah.
What if the whole reason he's collecting the Infinity Stones is because something bigger and badder is coming,
Oh, for sure.
like Galactus?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Is I mean, that's who's booking his flight.
Exactly, and I'm like, whoa, man, that'd be really rad. But my thought, and it kind of took me over, and I thought about things that we'd already discussed here about whether or not popularity in the films helps increase sales in the comics. And if there's no translation between that, I'd be interested to see now that Marvel has those properties back, what kind of a push they give back to the comics. Because for a little while they were kind of like, and they still are, not necessarily giving their best effort towards Fantastic Four.
Sure.
Not necessarily giving their best effort or putting the best people behind certain X-Men properties. So if they are brought into the fold of Marvel's family again, will they put more effort and more resources towards the books?
Right. Well, if it's any mark of what they've done with the Star Wars series, I mean, I would like to think yes. Those books are top notch.
Yeah.
The worst one's still better than most of everything that comes out. Like, I'm not a huge Poe Dameron fan of the character or the comic, but the comic's really, really solid. And, I'd like to think we could all see the difference between a book that's a piece of garbage and a book that's good, but you're just not personally into it. I mean, there's a difference there. And all those Star Wars books, I think they're great.
I'm not a collector of that, but every time that you've ever showed me one of the Star Wars comics, they do look very nice. I mean, they look
well done.
Well done. Yeah.
And that's a credit to Marvel, because Dark Horse had the Star Wars property for a long, long time. And they always had great art, but they weren't great books.
Right.
Some of them were good. The large majority of them were just Star Wars.
Right. Well, when the old school Marvel Star Wars books weren't all that great, I think that those books probably lend themselves a lot to the technology in terms of how you can print stuff and how you can color stuff now. It looks so close to the movie. Like the actual pages look, I don't know, it looks like somebody filmed it more than they drew it. There was one I showed you guys a couple weeks ago with Harrison Ford as Han Solo. How does somebody draw that? Like, that has to be a picture of him that they're manipulating into looking like art. Because, I mean, that's him in every panel.
Yeah.
So.
We brought this up before when we were talking about movies and stuff. Wouldn't it be great if they could do like the Marvel's Alex Ross in like a movie?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be awesome, man? Now that the FF's like a thing.
Yeah. Kind of like a. Are you saying in the sense of like that story or in that type of look?
Well, not necessarily. Well, maybe a little bit of both. I'm talking like the actual story, like the viewpoint, the viewpoint of us.
Right.
Looking out the window and seeing, the torch fly by.
Sure.
Stuff like that, just insane.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. So.
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea too, especially because at the end of Avengers when they're interviewing people on the street. Yeah. I always thought that was a super cool moment. Like if they could expand on that, that would be really neat.
But would that be better done as a film, or like how they did Daredevil and Punisher as a Netflix series, where you could expand upon it and do a whole lot?
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I'd go with the Netflix series in the sense that if you had 13 episodes and each one surrounded a certain incident in the history of the Marvel Universe, you got the Green Goblin coming through with Spider-Man, and then you've got, the Surfer showing up, and then you've got, whatever. You just go right down that laundry list.
Treasure trove of stories.
Well, Marvel has a problem with that because of legacy. You can't do a thing like Marvel's where they're just all showing up, and you interview them. Hey, you're the new guy, or blah blah blah. It's like, no, I'm not the new guy. I'm the 10th guy.
Yeah.
I'm the 10th Spider-Man. I'm the 15th Thor. Right? I'm telling you guys, they always screw this up, and they're screwing it up majorly with legacy. They can go back and show Odin before, maybe Thor showed up. That's all well and fine because that's the mythology of it all. But they screw up everything. Marvel screws up everything, and that's a question. The X-Men, it used to be, when the new X-Men came around in '94, or Giant Size X-Men. Yeah. And that's the new team. And it's going to change, and they've changed it so whenever it's X-Men Blue, Gold, whatever it is and stuff they keep bringing out. The Avengers, the Justice League, it's always different lineups. Does that have an effect upon whether you see the movie, whether you read the book? Because they change it and change it and change it just to change it. And they kill off people, and they bring new people in.
And they bring the people in that they killed.
Yeah.
I think.
But you're talking about the movie itself. They're going to make an X-Men movie. Who's the X-Men? Because in the books, In the comic books, they're all just shuffled up and thrown around.
The beauty of what Marvel's doing with their movies versus what they're doing with their comics. And it almost sucks because I feel like the people who are running their cinematic department really should be running the comics as well, based on the way that they have their vision and how they do their continuity. If they did it, like George said, as a period piece, where maybe you start off by just doing a one-shot movie, hey, this is how Professor X came to be. And then you kind of introduce different X-Men through that, like show when he went to Egypt and fought the Shadow King and got pickpocketed by a Storm. But don't say who Storm is. Just like let the internet take care of that for you. And have him have been there the whole time, and then kind of move forward and progress through that, and then kind of like oh gosh, I can't remember what story it was. There was an X-Men story where essentially Professor X used Cerebro, and it kind of spoke to how strong he was, where he wiped the whole concept of mutants away from everybody on the planet. And because Vision has the Mind Stone, Vision kind of was able to see through that ruse and was like, huh, well, who's this guy? And goes out to the X Mansion and has a conversation with Professor X, and the mutants start to kind of resurface again. They could do that. And in doing that, you could bring the original team. So you could do like a one-shot with Xavier. Then you could bring the original team of Beast, Cyclops, Iceman, Jean Grey. You could branch off and do your own Jean Grey movie and explain the Phoenix like in a whole movie.
Well, it's been so long since I've read Marvels, and I still own it.
Yeah.
I have to go back because I guess in that the question is, in Marvels, did the public, the general public, these superheroes just start showing up? Is what I'm asking.
Oh.
It's been a while since I read it too.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
No, as you interview, it's like, oh, you're the new superhero. These guys, you guys just started showing up, and you're even cooler than the last guy. But did they just start showing up in 1972 or 1961? You know what I mean? I'm not sure in Marvel. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
In other words, before that, Submariner and Captain America obviously were from World War II.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know in that book whether they reference any previous, superheroes. In other words, that these guys were just the newest that came along.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of what Legacy is saying. These characters now are not the only superheroes that ever existed. They've always existed. I don't have a problem with that, but when you start making up stuff that doesn't exist or doesn't fit in the timeline, then for us long-time readers, then it starts to get a little wonky for me.
I think again, I think it comes down to just how much emphasis any given reader puts on the overall timeline. I think that's ultimately where it is. Like I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think an argument can be made that if you enjoy what you've read, like nobody's going to read everything, right? I mean, nobody's going to read everything. So if it puts shackles on you to write a story because you have to account for something that happened 30 years ago, is that worth it? Like, I used to think that it absolutely was every time, and I'm not so sure anymore. I started to think, you know what, maybe it's not. Maybe it's okay that this doesn't exactly line up with something they said or did 25 years ago because the story is new or fresh or it justifies it. Like, I don't know, like, just as an example, and I mean, I know it's not the same thing at all, but, like, I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan. Those movies have very little, like, they try to give you a very basic idea that there's some continuity, but there's stuff in the seventh one that completely contradicts the fourth one. But I like it because it's like, I don't get hung up on that idea of, well, you already said this, so now you're messing with that. It's like, it's somehow calling into question all the integrity. It's like, no, I really like this, and I don't care.
I think with Marvel now, I think as far as getting, trying to get it back to, I guess, a continuity, I think it's impossible.
It is.
I think there's so many things that have happened. I don't think you could really, make it work again. I mean, and get it so, okay, this explains everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would be baffled to figure out. I mean, like some of your ideas are very interesting and entertaining, and to me, I would like that.
Right.
But I mean, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, in order to make it right, I don't know how you would do that.
And it still be entertaining and
Yes.
profitable. Like that's not a thing.
Yeah, but I can't believe that the internet hasn't blown up from the idea, from what I heard, from what I read. I mean, I thought maybe it was just someone joking around, but in the next Star Wars, it's Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is going to be a female. The character, Luke Skywalker, will be a female.
How?
My name is Luca.
Just like
Just out of the blue.
I live on the second floor.
In the next film.
just all
Now
of
in
a
Star
sudden.
Wars.
All of a sudden.
And Darth Vader is going to be a Latino man.
Senor Vader. I'm going to dig that.
To be fair,
Senor
Darth
Vader.
Vader's always had an identity crisis because That white dude had the deepest, darkest black voice I've ever heard in my life. And I was so, personally, as a child, I was so disappointed when the helmet came off. Because I was like, that's Mufasa. Don't you lie to me.
Yeah, it is Mufasa. You're right.
Chasing Amy, man. The reveal of feeble, crusty old white man.
No, I don't want him. Give me James Earl Jones.
Here's the thing, though.
And of course, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Here's the thing, though, is I mean, and stop me if I'm wrong, anybody at the table here, have they done that without explanation in the same timeline, or have they just changed others? Like, if they came out tomorrow and said, we're doing a new Star Wars movie, and it's not in the continuity of this one, but now all the things you just said are true. Like, okay, it's a different take on it. Like,
But,
okay.
I have a feeling Star Wars fans would be just fuming about it.
Now, are they saying that it's like almost like an Elseworlds type deal where this has nothing to do with the main timeline?
No. Just forget about all the other 8 movies that you've seen, 9 movies.
Okay, just like completely.
Luke Skywalker is now female.
But have they done that in comics? I don't think they.
I don't think.
I'm
they've
not
ever
saying
touched that
they
in Star
have.
Wars.
I'm just saying that's what a lot of these companies do to me. All of a sudden, boom, it's a different character, and I'm supposed to believe here in 2017 that my character is now female as opposed to.
But do you?
mix
But I
between-
see. My argument on that would be: are you far enough back from it, though, that like if you were paying closer attention to whatever said character that is, there would have been an explanation in there. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that in that analogy, the Star Wars situation, if I didn't watch it at all, if I never, wow,
Dude, cat-like reflexes.
yeah,
Good.
for real, that was a hell of a spider.
Arachnophobia. Look at that.
Dude,
man.
he's still like.
Yeah, he's mocking me.
I don't know. I think.
I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I saw my life
Tim
flash.
was bitten by a
The
radioactive
spider
I
slayer.
saw my life flash before my
The
eyes.
Spider Slayer, right here, ladies and gentlemen.
But no, my point is like if you didn't, if you weren't somebody that was like staying on top of the Star Wars movies, if you weren't paying attention to them
Yes.
very much, but you were a fan of the old ones and you just didn't really care that much later, then you saw on the news, hey, the next Star Wars movie, Luke's going to be a girl, and Darth Vader's going to be a Latino. You'd be like, what are you talking about? Those classics, you might have a problem with it, but I think if you were closer to it, there was probably a reason why. Because why would anybody do that? Like, that's my argument. Is I think that in Marvel, Thor becoming a girl, it wasn't like just one day you're flipping the book and without explanation they did it. Now that explanation might be stupid or crappy, or you might not like it, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't one. That's all I'm saying.
Or Miles Morales' appearance. There was a lot of people who didn't follow what was happening in the comics. They didn't know Peter Parker had died. They didn't know this. They didn't know that. They just know they see on Twitter one day, okay, well, they have this new half black, half Hispanic kid that's Spider-Man. Everybody's like, well, where's Peter? Peter's Spider-Man.
Right. Kind of like, what do you mean net neutrality?
Oh, man, there it goes.
What are you talking about? What does that mean?
Right there.
Wow, boom.
But to kind of piggyback off what Kramer and Walls were both saying, I think it's possible to do those things if you have a story that justifies it. Like, as far as what you're saying, I agree. I don't want to just be reading this and then see a new character just in the mantle for the 15th different change without it.
But they do it. They do it. The comic books I read.
But if they do it in a way like Flashpoint, where Flashpoint restarts the New 52, or you were saying that if Marvel, how would Marvel have a way of doing that? I think the only way Marvel could do that is they've always had the Infinity Stones as a part of some of their big crossover events, and with the Reality Stone, Time Stone, all that as it is, you could rewrite the world.
Sure.
So if you give it to the right character, like this guy, and you let him get a whole story where Deadpool gets the Infinity Gauntlet, it's like, I don't like the way the world is. Let me restructure it, and you can reintroduce characters, even if it was like in just a goofy way of being able to retell origins.
What's the Terminator? Change it in the past. It's different.
Come with me if you want to live.
I had read something that Stan Lee wrote. I was like a teenager at the time, so maybe you might know better than me if they changed it. But they were talking about how Marvel had the Marvel guidelines for time travel stories. They said that if you go back in time in a Marvel comic and change something, that it immediately shoots off into a parallel universe. That they don't want anything
To mess up
what's going on now. And
Marvel said that.
Stan Lee said that specifically,
Oh.
but he said that
He must not be in charge.
that if you, well, he said that
Well, he presented all that stuff.
if Doctor
I
Doom,
mean, Stanley presents.
well, there was this issue where the Thing goes back in time and basically tries to prevent the accident so that none of them got the powers, and then when he came back to the future, he was still the Thing, and Reed said, no, what happened there was this alternate timeline, like you made it for yourself, but it shoots off into an alternate timeline. You can't change the course of what you're doing. And then in the back of the book, Stan said, you know, this is kind of how we approach it, because otherwise it would be chaos. And again, this is the early 90s, and maybe that changed, or maybe that's no longer the rule. I mean, they've flushed a lot of far more important things down the toilet in the last 25 years. But that was, at least that's what I always went under. And I'd never heard that idea, that theory of, man, if you go back in time, because that would, like in real life, that would explain why we don't have people visiting us all the time. Or like, you can't say time travel is not possible if tomorrow you build one in your basement, you go back in time and you change something and we don't know it's changed. Like, it just shot off into an alternate reality.
Huh.
Maybe went down a little too far down the nerd hole there.
Great Scott. I
Great
like
Caesar's jumping catfish.
a little
That
personal.
was a great explanation, true believer.
Yeah, a little personal note to that. The alternate, like Kramer was saying about all the different characters and stuff. Pre-internet, obviously. You know, I'm like 5 years old. Not now, but anyway, the Human Torch miniseries, like back in the 70s.
Yeah.
It reprinted a lot of the stuff from the 40s, and you know, when I'm like used to the regular Human Torch,
Sure.
and I'm like, well, this isn't Johnny Storm. I'm 5 years old trying to figure this out. No internet, nobody else explained it to me.
Right.
You weren't friends with me then, so I would have known. You probably could have hooked me up. You know, the Human Torch was an android.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, what is? I don't
What's
even know what
going
that
on
is.
Nothing
You know, this is not Johnny Storm. You know, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure this out. And eventually, you know what? I got a couple more of the issues, and I was like, you know what? I don't really like this version. I'm sticking with Johnny Storm and the FF. So I wasn't interested in those other Human Torch, because I was like, hey, Human Torch, the guy's in comic book.
I'll tell you, the worst example of that for me personally was going to see the Transformers movie. And in the first 15 minutes, they killed off every major character. Like, all the characters that I liked, you know, and loved, they killed them all off. And then the next season of the show was, I mean, you want to talk about no reason, no rationale. It just was like, boom, they killed off everybody. Optimus Prime and, you know, and the whole line, Bumblebee, all of them. They all just died. Like, and I mean, my brother and I were all about that show. Go to see the movie, and everybody dies in the first 10 minutes, and then they introduce all these new characters that you don't care about, and it was just kind of like, man, and I hated that for a long time. I mean, it really bugged me, and after a while, I guess you get your heart broken enough when it comes to things you love and how they get changed around and swapped. Another one was in the 90s when they did the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon. It was like they changed the logo on Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, I had a subscription to Amazing Spider-Man for a decade, and I love the classic thing.
Yeah.
And then they did that one that looks like block letters on the bottom. I hate it. Like, I was like, I'm not reading this. I can remember thinking, I'm done with this. Like, this is done. I hate when they do that stuff. But I just, after a while, I just kind of took this approach. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I took this approach, like, enjoy what you enjoy and ignore what you don't.
For some reason, a lot of companies did that, because when I was talking earlier about Warren Publishing, they changed the Creepy, Eerie, and Vampirella. They had very classic looks to them. You know, like how they were worded across. They did that. Like, they changed how that looked. And I remember picking up, I'm like, what the heck? And that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
You know, and I guess they were, I don't know, it's an attempt to maybe attract new people, or, you know, hey, we're going in boldly into the future. I'm like, well, I don't like that at all. I
don't want to go to the future.
Yeah,
I want to stay right here.
No, go back. I want that logo. And you know what's funny? In most cases, they changed it back. Yeah.
Like the FF logo.
Yeah.
I can remember my parents getting me books for Christmas and me saying, make sure you get the Advantage of Force with the good logo, not the crappy one.
Love that.
Like, it didn't even matter who was in it or what. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm probably the crabby one here whenever it comes to, you know, criticism. And that's what this is all about. This is what we're doing here. We're talking. And, you know, you may be looked down upon if you're negative about something.
Oh,
and you're not ready to roll with the changes. But the changes, to me, I don't like.
And that's fair.
That's why.
But sometimes in this
Absolutely.
PC world and stuff, it's like, wow, Kramer he's just stuck in the past. It's like, no.
No.
I like the past.
I like
it was
the past
great.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
All these books are based upon the past.
If we didn't like the past, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
I just think that Marvel is very, very, very unfocused.
I agree with you
They're
100% on that.
extremely unfocused. And that's what I said about going back to the couple teams of the X-Men. If you want to have another team, that's fine. But the team that came in '94, or the original, as you were referring to, roster, that's great. Make better books with those. Quit playing around and putting them all in different places. Same with the Justice League. They've had a million different people, and a lot of the lineups, as you know, don't make sense to me.
You're not a big team guy, lover.
No, I understand, but you could still write a good team book.
I think as far as that
But they
goes,
do a terrible job.
if you have like your main lineup, those are your starters. Everybody else is the bench. Like you can tell a story about the bench here and there,
Right.
but like when big things are happening in the DC universe and somebody calls for the Justice League, I don't want Jade to show up, or no offense to him, but I don't want Oliver Queen. I want Bruce Wayne.
Right.
And I don't want Captain Atom. I want Superman. Like I don't want the Atom. Like I want Wonder Woman. I want the big shots to show up
Right.
when big things happen. So my question to you, as far as like what your opinion is on these things, instead of them replacing a character 15 times, would you rather just Ant-Man is Hank Pym? If you're going to kill Hank Pym, let Hank Pym be dead. You can bring Scott Lang in, but make him someone different. Don't make him Ant-Man.
Like, is there a time, if I'm understanding you correctly, is there a time where it's acceptable for somebody else to pick up the mantle of another?
Absolutely.
Or
But that person has to stay dead.
Or should they just kill off a character and do something completely different?
Well,
Instead of there being
again-
15 different Ant-Men.
Well, it depends. Like I said, we're just joking about the Spider Killer here.
Yeah.
You know, if that was radioactive and he became Spider-Man,
I am.
well, the rest of us don't become Spider-Man.
Oh, dude, I'm eating that.
Oh.
If Tim starts, go, Web, go!
Hey, bon appetit.
And I don't care if I get
It's
the
right here.
mutation and like the 8, I'm cool with it.
Evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't care if there's 15 Spider-Mans, but they can't be bit by radioactive
Batman.
spiders. That doesn't
Batman.
that doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
What's
It's a unique thing. Like I said, I still don't know how they're gonna bring back the Hulk because he was killed.
Right.
So as usual, we have a mess that Marvel made for, and it didn't even make that big of a headline.
No, it didn't.
At all.
Because he was never really dead. That's what they'll do. Oh, well, you know, Hulk has.
Well, like I said, you fall for that X
Inherent
amount of
healing
times,
effect.
and
Yeah.
you know, I'm 40-some years into reading, and I fall for it X amount of times. I'm like, nah, I'm not buying this. You know, at all.
Yeah.
And they've done it to the FF. They've done it to everybody. Batman's dead. Superman's dead. Nah, I'm not falling for this anymore. It just, and you see people when you make, and it makes the news and on was it Comic Resources or Comic Book Resources, and I'm like, nah, I'm not falling for this again.
I actually personally was really excited when they killed Batman. Because Nightwing was running the show for quite a little bit of time. And it was really cool the way that they handled those stories to say, you know what? Bruce was like a great Batman, but we like you as a person better. Like to see all of the friends that Batman had made just kind of be like, yeah, you're cooler than him.
Yeah.
And like really accept him. And also the way that the stories changed, like with villains. Like they were so used to like brutal, blunt Bruce. And then Dick comes with kind of still that boyish charm. And then they did the inverse where the new Robin was the hardcore guy. Because it was Damian, and then you have Dick, who's still kind of like the sidekick, just in the main role. And I think, like you said, if they're going to do it, they should keep it that way.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the Hulk, it was Incredible Hercules. Remember that?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Now, what I would like to do is line all of us up and bring the guy in, whose idea that was.
Yeah.
Come here, buddy. Yeah, go through the
Oh no,
gauntlet. 'cause
they went through Planet Hulk, which was a great storyline, and all of a sudden,
it's Incredible Hercules.
he's
You're like,
Hercules. I'm
what?
like, what?
Yeah.
And
Here, we made
you know,
this great story, and here's how we're going to end it. Here's how this is the next.
and then they end up just canceling the thing and starting over again because they realize they screwed up.
Yeah.
They do it all the time. I don't know who's editing these books, but they're doing a lousy job.
I think that ends up being a side effect of the entertainment business as a whole. It's like you always still have to be making money like a soulless corporate conglomerate, but you're also trying to keep people entertained because that's where the money's coming from. I mean, you think about it, you need electricity, you need water. There's things you're going to pay for, and that's just how it is. But we still very much have a choice in what entertains us, and I think that it's this weird clash of we're trying to make as much money as we can, and we have no choice but to make sure these people are interested because they don't need anything we've got. And you think about it. I mean, I not giving anything at all away, but I went and saw the new Star Wars movie when it came out Thursday night, and everybody that saw it got like 95% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics leading up to the movie, and they said the best one since Empire, better than Empire, blah blah blah. I went and saw it, and I was kind of like, I mean, how dare they not let me leave this theater filled with childlike wonder and excitement? I mean, it was good, and I don't want to say anything at all about it other than that. But on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is 53. I mean, it's a fail, and from the people that saw it, I don't agree with that. But I'm just saying that's where it's at. And it's like, how many times can you do something in general? How many times can you do something and include the past in it before it's a better idea to just start it over. And I don't think you're ever going to make everybody happy, but you know, I mean, where's that at? It's if is it based on how successful or popular it was? I mean, is that the only thing? Like, if Fantastic Four never existed other than the movies that came out, would anybody be angry that they're going to make a new Fantastic Four movie if the only thing that you knew about it was the 3 crappy movies that came before it?
What was the, was it New Hope? Was that the first one?
Silver Surfer.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Joking.
Yeah, I was. Oh man! Don't make me come over this table. Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Was the New Hope the first one of the?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of the original series.
And again, I saw the originals in the theaters, and it was
You're
like,
here. Whoa!
oh.
Oh, you killed Oscar.
So did Oscar.
Oscar.
But yeah, I mean, I watched it, and I was expecting something really, really spectacular, and I thought it was a really good Star Wars movie.
Which one?
Was it
The original one?
New Hope?
That was the 1977 New Hope's original.
Yes.
Are we talking about the one, like the prequel?
No. The ones that there's 3 of them that are out now, right? Rogue One. What was the?
Oh,
When
Force
I-
Awakens. Yeah, Force Awakens. Yeah, no, I loved that. I thought that was great.
But yeah, I thought it was a really good film. They brought back the original people, but from the very beginning, the tapestry coming up, it just felt like 1977. There wasn't anything new about it. I thought it was a great way to reintroduce, you know, after those second 3 or first 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was intentionally done. And
I
like,
understand.
to your point, and I don't just mean in the sense of.
But it looked and felt and smelt just like the original.
it, and that,
Yeah.
Smelled.
and that's what I was going to say. I think that was almost.
Felt it, felt it.
It was so intentional, but I think it was a problem that it was that intentional.
Well,
Because
I
it was
think,
almost like they just redid A New Hope.
but I mean, I think they had to just to get it back on the rails because those prequels are.
Hey,
Whoa, whoa,
hey,
whoa,
get
whoa,
things
whoa,
back
whoa,
on the
whoa,
rails.
whoa,
That's pretty
George.
cool.
George, please don't. I will cry.
What?
If you were going to do what I think you're about to do.
The prequels?
Jar Jar Binks is the best character ever to be invented.
I'm not giving anything away.
He's coming over there now.
No, the prequels, the episode 1, and yeah, you have to be kidding, right?
Jar Jar Binks is Snow.
He got me so close to me, like, get your shit, get out.
Grab your book bag. Grab your book bag and leave.
You're out of here.
No, I don't even know where to go from there.
I do have something to say.
I can't even
though.
look at you now.
Back to Gary talking about all the crap that keeps coming out and they keep printing it and it's a waste of ink. Then you get just like little rainbows, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were talking about, what did we read this week? You know, like Gary said, you could tell a million Batman stories. There's so much, you know, how many years and decades of Batman material that's out there.
Yeah.
But they could still pull out something that cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm enjoying that
You
too.
need to do yourself a favor. Get the
Yeah.
reprint, get whatever, get the trade paperback when it comes out. This is an amazing story.
Yeah, it's a
and the
neat
art
story.
is super easy on the eyes. I'm glad
Cool.
you turned me on to
Super
it.
easy.
No,
Yeah.
man, he seems incredible.
Well, it's illustration art.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have how many things here that, I'll glance over and look at, and it's like, no, I'm keeping my money. But then I see that, and I'm like, take all my money.
We were talking about the Killing Joke. That was a story that wasn't really done in the timeline of what was going on with Batman. It was just
Right.
done, but it did not disrupt anything.
Right.
Nope.
Even was it Days of Future Past, the X-Men, the classic, the John Byrne?
Yeah.
They did it, and it worked, and then
Yep.
they went back to the normal stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well-
you can always do those alternate universes
Yeah.
or timelines
Yeah.
and stuff, and then get back to business. is
Look
what
at
I'm trying
Kelly
to say.
Jones. Kelly Jones,
Instead of
Red
just-
Rain.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
see, sometimes they're so good that
I
even
just
though
read
they
reread
weren't
that the other
on
day,
that
I'm
main
glad you mentioned
timeline,
that.
they influenced that main timeline because after the Killing Joke, Barbara Gordon just became Oracle.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that influential, but like you said, it didn't detract from anything they were doing. Right now, DC has 2 major storylines going on, and if you aren't someone who's following it that closely, most people can't tell you whether Metal happens before Doomsday Clock. And both of them are involving the majority of the DC universe right now,
Right.
and telling 2 fantastic stories and doing a great job in how they're doing it. But
Yeah. Well, guys, until next week, we'll leave it there. Please send your questions, and anybody that's interested in having like a copy of all the stuff we've done. While I
All
can't
the
imagine,
stuff.
well, I
The
can't
stuff.
imagine why. I won't question it. Just let us know, and we'll see if we can.
We're baffled.
Can't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enlighten
Much like
us.
the police, we are baffled.
Enlighten us.
And we will be here next week.
Might take a
Definitely
while, boys.
stop in to Calling All Heroes Comics, 50 Stately Street in Wally Ford, West Virginia. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/Calling All Heroes Comics. We're at Twitter we are at Call All Heroes. And we have a YouTube channel we're going to be moving all of this onto, which will be youtube.com/Calling All Heroes Comics. And I am George.
Gary.
Tim.
Walls.
Austin.
And we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much.
Peace.